ॐ विश्वं दर्पणदृश्यमाननगरी तुल्यन्निजान्तर्गतं पश्यन्नात्मनि मायया बहिरिवोद्भूतं यथा निद्रया यस्साक्षात् कुरुते प्रबोधसमये स्वात्मानमेवाद्वयं तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये बीजस्यान्तरिवाङ्कुरो जगदिदं प्राङ्निर्विकल्पं पुनः मायाकल्पितदेशकालकलना वैचित्रचित्रीकृतं मायावीव विजृम्भयत्यपि महायोगी वयस्वेच्छया तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्तिः 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 सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम् ॐ पार्थाय प्रतिबोधितां भगवता नारायणेन स्वयं व्यासेन ग्रथितां पुराणमुनिना मध्ये महाभारतम् अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणीं भगवतीम् अष्टादशाध्यायिनीम् अम्ब त्वामनुसन्दधामि भगवद्गीते भवद्वेषिणीम् यं ब्रह्मा वरुणेन्द्ररुद्रमरुतः स्तुन्वन्ति दिव्यैस्तवैः वेदैः साङ्गपदक्रमोपनिषदैः गायन्ति यं सामगाः ध्यानावस्थिततद्गतेन मनसा पश्यन्ति यं योगिनः यस्यान्तं न विदुःसुरासुरगणाः देवाय तस्मै नमः देवाय तस्मै Verse 56 दुःखेष्वनुद्विग्नमनाः सुखेषु विगतस्पृहः वीतरागभयक्रोधः स्थितधिर्मुनिरुच्यते. So we are discussing this section Sthitaprajna Vibhagah. Sthitaprajnasya Lakshanani, the description of a wise person. We are seeing that and we have seen yesterday one verse Prajahati Yada Kaman etc. where Bhagavan has given a definition of a wise person. So here it says Dukkheshu Anudvigna Manaha. Dukkheshu, in adversities, in pains. Anudvigna Manaha. Udvigna Manaha means affected, whose minds are affected. Anudvigna Manaha, whose minds are not affected. Sukheshu, for pleasures. Vigata Spruha, one who is without any kind of a spruha, any kind of a yearning, any kind of a desire. Vitaraga Bhayak Krodha, Vitam is gone, or he is free from. Vitaraga Bhayak Krodha, so one who is free from the longing, Bhayam, fear, and Krodha, anger. Well, and the Munihi, such a wise person, is called Sthitadihi, one in whom this knowledge, the self-knowledge, stays. Iti Uchyate. So this is said. So this Iti Uchyate means Sthitadihi Munihi Uchyate. Such a wise person is called Sthitaprajna, etc. Yesterday we saw two definitions. Prajahati Yada Kaman Sarvan Parthamanogata. So when he is happy with himself, he is happy in, actually Atmani means he is happy in himself. Atmana, by himself, etc. etc. Means he discovers that he is the source of the happiness. That's a clarity regarding the self, the nature of the self. So he is happy with himself also, you can say. That is wise person. That was the first definition. And the second definition also was there, of course, Prajahati yada kaman sarvan parthamanogatan. And that is whatever the desire arises in his mind, is able to become free from that. Yeah, desire may arise, even though they are all binding desires, but then for him it is not a binding, because he has become free. And therefore it doesn't, the person who is ignorant gets this kind of, any kind of a raga, dveshas, etc. are there. I mean, desires are there. The ignorance person is bound, not a wise person. So this, Bhagavan is on request of Arjuna giving a description. So the one who is not affected by adversities, who is without any kind of a strong desire for any pleasures, and is free from the longing or fear and anger, is said to be the wise person whose knowledge stays, whose knowledge is unshaken. And so Arjuna's question was answered completely as such in the previous verse, because he asked Siddha Prajnasya ka bhasha. If you remember, bhasha, bhashyate bhasha. So he has asked to Bhagavan what is the description of the wise person. Then Bhagavan of course gave in the last verse. But still the description is continued throughout the section. So being awake to yourself and in yourself alone, you discover your joy, your fulfillment. And you discover it by yourself. I mean, through knowledge, definitely. So without self-knowledge, of course, you cannot discover happiness in yourself. And therefore, because you are not having a knowledge of the self, and therefore that was the problem. And how can a person discover, happiness in yourself, by yourself, when the self is unhappy? So the discovery, if the self, of course, is basically unhappy, then Atmaneva Atmana Tushta is not possible. He is happy with himself. That is not possible. Definitely then in that case, person has to fulfill the desire. But if person is happy with himself, then definitely must have discovered that happiness is the nature of the self. And that is the self, so this kind of a discovery means is through the knowledge. So nature of Atma is basically free from any limitation, and person who is awake to this particular fact, then Siddha Prajna or wise person is free from unhappiness. So as desire arises in his mind, he is not affected by them, because he knows that I am the source of happiness. Let the desire arises. Arise and it goes. He doesn't do anything. Desire arises and it goes also. And I have told you yesterday the reason why desire arises. It is just out of that habit. There is nothing that he really wants to fulfill that desire. So any kind of, that's how, in his mind also, depending upon the gunas, of course, basically he was a sattvic person, so he gained this knowledge. But the guna guneshu vartante, this thing is going to be there. Depending upon his prarabdha, not that all the time he may be a sattvic person. Maybe some kind of due to rajoguna, and rajoguna's karya, according to that effect of the rajoguna, definitely a particular kind of a thought will arise. And that desire, of course, is a manifestation of a rajoguna. Anyway, so this is, he is totally free from that. And it arises and it subsides also. And why he is not affected? Because he knows that he is the source of happiness, and therefore he is not bound by. His happiness is not determined by the desire or by the raga dveshas. So this is how Krishna described the characteristic of a person of wisdom, and when Arjuna wanted to know, of course, how a wise person responds to the world, etc. So even though our response to the world also does not necessarily reveal how much wisdom we have, but still Arjuna thought that, it cannot become a matrix, it cannot become a norm, that he responds in this way, and therefore let us all, measure ourselves accordingly. It's not so, because it's very difficult to determine. But yet, Arjuna thought that the spontaneous expression of a wise person interacting in the world, of course, would reflect those values which are to be cultivated by the seeker, and that's how he asked the questions. And so, what was it that the wise person followed before becoming wise, or that made him or her wise, and that continues to be the spontaneous expression of that person, will becomes the means for the seeker, and he also can cultivate those values. So first thing now here is dukkeshu anudvigna manaha. So you can see the plural is used, dukkeshu. So then definitely Bhashyakara explains that there are three types of sources are there of a dukkham. Dukkham is one, but the sources are three. That's how plural is used. And we know very well three sources of dukkham is, or sorrow is. First is adhyatmika. Three sources of sorrow are, So first is adhyatmika, and that is adhyatmika as means at individual level. The second is adi bhautikam, and third is adi devikam. So adhyatmika means a pain which arises, the source is our own body, mind, senses, etc. Starting from stomach ache, etc., and neck pain, and all this, headache, anything. Second source of a sorrow is adi bhautikam, and it's a situation around me, including the people and the bugs, of course, which irritate me. And the third one is adi devikam, is the pain or sorrow caused by the disasters, like earthquakes, like floods, like lot of rain, like severe snowstorm or severe cold, etc. Natural forces. Because adi daivikam, here daivikam is some kind of a natural force. Adi deva means a natural force. Basically, because world consists of three things. World consists of an individual, world consists of a surrounding, and world consists of natural forces. Devatas. So, sorrow also can arise from three sources, and that is how it has been told here. Dukkeshu, the plural has been used, depending upon the three types of sorrow. And definitely, the pain which is arising from the natural forces, that kind of a pain is not created by the human being, but it is from the source of, we say, from the divine forces, natural phenomena, etc. So, and those forces, we cannot control, even though they are going to give us a pain, like lot of rain suddenly, and there is a lot of flooding. We can prevent ourselves, that is one thing, but you cannot prevent the force. Like what is, to an extent, this adi bhautikam pain you can avoid. Like suppose a noisy neighbor, you can tell him, you can request him, and still he is not, not willing to, make him, silent himself. Then definitely you may change the house or whatever. So complain, etc., whatever. But then, or maybe the pain from a mosquito. So you can prevent yourself. So adi bhautikam pain and adhyatmika pain, that you can control to an extent, of course. You can control to an extent. You will have to undergo because it's a prarabdha. So you can like a way, like a fever, let's say, or even a headache, let's say, or a stomach ache. So even if you take medicine to basically cure it, but it takes time to go. Till then you have to suffer. But at least to an extent you can control, because the prarabdha is prarabdha depends, what kind of a prarabdha you have. That's how the manda prarabdha is there, and madhyama prarabdha is there, and tivra prarabdha also is there. Tivra prarabdha means nothing can be done, and no cure, you have to undergo the pain. Anyway, but still these two sources of pain, a human being can control to an extent. But adi daivikam, any pain which is definitely arising through this source, you cannot control. So while the source of sorrow is threefold, there are no different types of sorrow. We should remember that sorrow may express itself in 100 ways, like somebody weeps, and somebody howls, and somebody kicks, whatever. I mean, it have one sorrow has a several ways of expression, but sorrow is one. But sources of sorrow are more. That's what we want to convey. And that is what Bhashyakara, of course, tells in the commentary. Bhashyam, it is there. And here, Dukkheshu Anudvigna Manaha, well, he is a Sthita Prajna. Dukkheshu Anudvigna Manaha means those whose minds are not affected by or shaken by these three types of, three sources of sorrow. And well, then such a person is said to be a wise person. This is the first part. Now, since the sources of pain are always active, one or other source will be always active. Pain is possible for a wise person also, but he or she is not affected by it, we should say. Then, that's how they give an example. What then is the response of a, let's say, a wise person? When he has got a headache. Because such questions are there for the wise people. Does he get a disease or not? Does he get a headache or not? Does he get a heart attack or not? Those kind of questions are always there. And so, will his head ache or not? That kind of a question. Or it may be possible that people may ask that, does he ever have a head or not? That itself, to begin with. And then, definitely, and Puja Swami's style. So, it starts with that. And then say, yeah, he has a head. Then headache will be natural. So, if he has a heart or not? Well, he has a heart. Then he will have a heart attack. Therefore, that kind of a thing, they always give. I mean, Puja Swamiji gives in a light mood this kind of a answer. So now when his head aches means, does he know it or not? Because he is Satchidananda. And therefore, being Satchidananda, what happens when there is headache? We would like to know. Does he recognize that headache or not? Well, the verse indicates that he does recognize the headache. But when such pain occurs, the wise man is not affected. There is no mental affliction. That's all it wants to convey. That's how we should always keep that thread. Ashocyananda shochastvam means there is no sorrow. Sorrow means a mental affliction. Is not there. So when you recognize a dukkham, and then there is a dukkham for you. Dukkham is there from the three sources, but you recognize it, and afterwards you make a fuss out of it. Then all this thing will lead to definitely sorrow. Person is met with an accident, and definitely he has got some injury in the leg, etc. And there is little bit blood also oozes out, and definitely there is a pain also because he was met with that accident, and some vehicle, of course, hit him. But more than that, when he was going to the hospital, that pain at the level of the body is there, that's one thing. But pain at the mental level is much more. I don't know why, what kind of a planetary position is there, I don't know. I will have to go to this, or I have not done anything wrong with that. I do regular puja, I do temple visit, this, that, etc. So many things. I think the particular person has cursed me, or somebody has done something. In India, people believe this kind of thing. Here also, I don't know whether they believe or not. They think that somebody is doing something evil behind the person. And all this kind of thing, it multifolds. The pain at the body level which is there, it multifolds. And that is what he is free from. Udvignaha means udvega. Udvega means this. So udvignaha, the person is afflicted or was afflicted, whatever. He's afflicted, udvignaha. And then anudvignaha means he is not afflicted with the mental pain. So any disturbance from these three sources described, and then he makes a fuss out of it. And so the headache is there, let's say, but you recognize it and then you worry about it until your whole head and even the whole body starts giving you pain. So you are only one with a neck pain, but you talk so much about it and make such a fuss that your pain also becomes everyone's else pain in the neck. And so this is the situation. So that he is free. He recognizes the pain at the body level, etc. But he doesn't have a mental pain. Mental pain is in your hand. Definitely, you can be free from that, because there's certain thinking, certain background, and here he, of course, is having a self knowledge, and well, of course, establishing that, and therefore there is no mental pain. Now, then the second thing is Sukheshu Vigata Spruha. There's another thing. What about the pleasure? Okay, we have understood this. Regarding Dukkham, regarding this, he doesn't have a sorrow, who is not affected by the adversities, he is not affected by the three sources of sorrow. We have understood that. But what about when some kind of a pleasure comes in his life? So there are people who who can remain quiet when dukkham comes, but they jump around like a football, when something pleasant happens. So the word sukham, sukheshu also, you can see now dukkeshu is also a plural. Sukheshu also shows a plural. It's a plural word. So there are several sources of getting pleasure. Pleasant situation is there, or sensory pleasure is there, or around everything is fine, everything is in harmony, good neighbor, etc. There is no mosquito, pandemic has gone, etc. etc. Suppose. And therefore you are happy now. Or economic situation in the country has improved, etc. And you are happy. Being even in US and you are now citizen, then you definitely will be happy if the condition improves here economically, etc. So this all is called Adi Bhautikam Sukham. And natural forces also are very, very, very conducive to you. There is not so much of cold, not so much of heat, etc. And so you are very happy. Rain also comes for half an hour and goes. And then again you get a sunlight, etc. So you are very happy. So natural forces also can, because natural forces can give you such kind of a pain, then they can give you the happiness also. They can bring a pleasure for you also. And therefore we can consider that the same way Adhyatmika, Adi Bhautika and Adi Daivika Sukham. Adhyatmika Sukham means sensory pleasures. Adi Bhautika means from your surrounding. Everything is in harmony and therefore you are happy. And Adi Daivikam means natural forces, etc. No earthquake, no this, etc. And therefore you are very happy. Natural forces are very conducive to you. So, Sukheshu Vigata Spruha, Sukheshu Spruha, well then this person, Vigata Spruha, this person, a wise person, he does not, when such situation comes, he gets a sensory pleasure, he gets a pleasure from the surrounding, or natural forces are conducive, etc. for a wise person also. Then what happens? Vigata Spruha means, does a wise person not laugh at all when something, such a situation is happening? Or, well, we say he becomes happy, but he will not, this person basically doesn't jump around. When anything conducive happens, he does not jump around. Vigata Spruha means he does not jump around. Like Archimedes, I think Archimedes or somebody, he discovered something and then he ran on the street, Eureka something. Well, I don't, maybe the Archimedes or some other scientist. He discovered, and then he was so overjoyed, elation we call. Such elation would not be there in his life. So, don't think that he doesn't laugh at all. There are several people feel that he may not be laughing at all. It is not like that. So, Sukheshu Vigata Spruha, 1. Dukkheshu Anudvigna Manaha, 2. This characteristic, is of a wise person, and they becomes a means for a seeker, mumuksha. And Bhashyakara in his comment to this verse gives an example of a fire. He says that if you feed the fire with a more wood, it will grow even more. Anuvivardhanti. It will grow more. So in keeping with the fuel that has been offered, it grows to a big conflagration. And when you first light a fire, it always starts as a flame. But is a small flame. But suppose if you set a single match to a tank of like a gasoline, etc., and you will find an instant conflagration. So more the fuel, more the fire. So he is not like that, unlike the fire. So this is, we call it as a Vyatireka Drishtanta. Vyatireka Drishtanta means the example is given to compare with the vice person, but contrary example is given. So unlike the fire, Bhashyakara says this vice person, sukha, resolves in his or her fullness. It doesn't become like a conflagration. He does not get elated. Any pleasure, a pleasurable situation, etc., comes in his life, well, he does not get elated. So as if the sukha arises in his mind, please understand the sukha arises whenever he gets, suppose he is eating food and certain things he like, and he finds it and he eats it. Don't think he will not get a sukhakara vritti at all. That's a wrong way of understanding. Then he becomes like a stone. So a conscious being means a sukha dukkha arises in the mind, but such elation would not be there. So because his sukha resolves in his fullness, in his happiness, that's his nature. So since there is no yearning for a sukha, the person's desire, well, definitely do not get out of hand. If you have a yearning for a sukha and that happens, well, definitely then you will see yourself in a mood of elation. But he does not have that. But still, because of the prarabdha is there, his body continues, and therefore both the types of things will be there. So, sometimes sukha will also, pleasure, the situations of pleasure would also arise. Sometimes situation of pain also would arise. But definitely, in this situation, he will not, his desires definitely do not get out of the hand, and therefore, vigata spruha, see, he doesn't have the spruha as such. Spruha means yearning, and therefore he will not be elated, even in these situations which are very conducive. So he gets a sensory pleasure, and he appreciates also, oh, this is very good, oh, I like it very much, oh, I am very happy that I ate today this, etc. He may say everything, and not that he, for the sake of saying. Accordingly, in his mind, as per his vasanas, definitely he may get, like Pujya Swami used to give an example, that suppose he is born and brought up in southern India, definitely then when he finds a food anywhere, even in the North India, he is there, and suppose somebody invites him for a bhiksha, and he gets a food of a, South Indian kind of a food, etc., well, he will be happy. He definitely will be happy. He would not be happy with he may like, that's a different thing. But because his vasanas are there, he has been brought up that way, and therefore he finds a food which is conducive, he may like a certain dish, etc., and then he will become happy. So sensory pleasure is there, please understand that, even for the jnani. And that way, adi bhautikam sukham, like he has established some ashrama, etc., and then there is a conducive environment, harmonious environment, no more quarrels, etc., then he will be happy, And adi devikam, etc., and suppose he is having a physical body from United States, and he comes to Rishikesh, and that to month of May, and definitely so much of heat. So when he goes to Ganges and take a deep, and comes out, he feels very good. So this thing will be there. So if so much of heat will be there, he will be as though afflicted. His body will be afflicted, but his mind will not be afflicted. Understand that. His mind will not be afflicted at all. So Bhagavan said in this verse, well, who is not swept away either by sukha or dukkha, well, then he is free from what? Vitaraga bhayak krodha, he is free from likes. Raga means likes and dislikes, we have to count both. And then bhayam means fear and anger. So vitaraga bhayak krodha, the wise person is free from these three things. Ragadvesha, likes and dislikes, and that too we know very well. Now, he is free from binding ragadveshas. He is free from binding ragadveshas. He is free from fear. He is free from anger. And so here, generally they mention one. Vita ragaha. Very first thing is Vita ragaha. So you should include Dvesha also. Is a freedom from raga implies freedom from dvesha also. Because they are a pair. When one is mentioned, you should understand the other thing. Like Dukkheshu, we have discussed three sources of sorrow. Then if three sources of sorrow are there which can give you dukkham, then the same sources can give you sukham also. That's how we have included. So Dukkheshu, when he said, in that we have counted three sources, then sukha also we should count three sources. So when one is mentioned, in case of raga etc., the other one is automatically understood to be included. And in other words, they go together. So happiness of, his happiness, please understand, his happiness is not determined by these ragadveshas. And the ragadveshas which are present in the mind, everything, you just imagine what I am saying, you please imagine. So you will feel that, we have a possibility to become a wise person. Sometimes we imagine a wise person in such a way that we feel that it is impossible to reach to that height. It is not like that. We have to understand it properly. So ragadveshas are there in an ignorant person. Ragadveshas are there in a wise person also. And he chooses also. You say, what will you like, Swamiji? Then Swamiji may give you a list also, that these things I like. He says that, very clearly he says. And Swamiji, do you like this dress or not? He may say, I don't like this color. He will say everything. Well, so you feel that there is no difference between ignorant and wise person. So we are better where we are, etc. Don't think that way. So ragadveshas are there in both. But this person, the ignorant person's mood is determined by the presence of ragadveshas in the mind. The wise person's mood or happiness is not determined by the ragadveshas present in his mind. That's how in him it is binding. In ignorant person, they are binding ragadveshas. In wise person, there are non-binding ragadveshas. So, but they are there. Ragadvesha means kama, desire. So desires are there in both. But if the desire cannot determine the happiness of a wise person, desire determines, or the fulfillment of the desire determines the happiness of an ignorant person. So Vita Raga, from him the raga has gone, dvesha has gone, means we have to understand now, they are not able to bind this person. They are not able to determine the happiness of a wise person. Means his happiness is not in the hands of this ragadvesha. Pujya Swami used to tell that the ragadveshas present in a wise person's head, in the mind, they do not have teeth. They want to bite the mind of this wise person, but they are not able to bind it. They are not able to bite. Why? Because either they have become too old, or either they are nascent. They are in a nascent stage. They are very the child which is born, recently, will not have any teeth. And the person who has, become too old, he also doesn't have a teeth. That kind of ragadveshas, those kind of ragadveshas are there in a wise person. They are not able to bite this person's head, and non-binding. And now Vita Raga, then the next thing is Vita Bhayam. But that word, Bhayam has been purposefully placed in between Raga and Krodha, between the desire and anger. Now absence of fear, but they are connected, that is what it is. So once Raga is gone, Vita Raga, then definitely fear is also gone. That's how. Otherwise Bhagavan could have written Bhayam also first, but no. The first, when the Raga goes, means then fear also goes. Fear exists, only when desire. Raga means a desire is there. And desire is there only when ragadveshas are there. Because ragadveshas are nothing but in the form of desire only. So I want, etc. we call it as a kama. And then what I want depends upon this ragadvesha. So, so fear exists only when desire is there, and desire is there when ragadveshas are there. and definitely then desire is a kama, and so definitely this kama or a desire indicates a duality. Definitely it's due to the notion that I am this much alone and everything else is other than me, and I have to get few things out of that. I am this much alone, everything is other than me, and from this world which is other than me, I have to get few things, and accordingly you will have a desire. So definitely desire indicates a duality, and definitely when there is a duality, and meaning there is a difference between Jiva and Ishvara, the Lord, Jiveshwara Bheda only is confirmed. Duality means the very first thing. The duality at a three stage as such we say. Between Jiva and Ishvara there is a duality. Between Jiva and Jagat there is a duality. Between Jiva and Jiva there is a duality. But there is as to a sequence here. One who is born and even he is born in a Astika family, definitely he has this without any kind of he has accepted that Ishvara is different from me. That is very first thing. And therefore Jiveshwara Bheda is the very, very basis. And naturally there will be a fear, because difference between individual and the Lord implies definitely automatically the difference between or the duality between individual and the world also. And then duality between individual and the world means duality between individual and another individual which is a part of the world. So this is how the sequence is. Jiveshwara Bheda is there in our head. I am different, Ishvara is different. That's first thing. And that leads to means we are born with, but this is we show it as a sequence. And that leads to the difference between or a duality between in fact this duality between a individual and Lord has a basis in the difference. I cannot be Ishvara because Ishvara has something which I don't have, or what I have Ishvara is free from that, etc. So differences bring the duality, but differences are of course there all the time. They are there because of the ignorance, and that duality between Jiva and Ishvara brings the duality between Jiva and Jagat. And then, duality between Jiva and Jagat definitely brings a duality between Jiva and Jiva. So, duality between individual and individual. So, once you accept a duality between individual and Ishvara, then it leads to such kind of a differences at all the level, everywhere. And if you think that you are different from Ishvara, you will think that you are different from the world and from everyone else in the world. And then in this world of duality, you are an insecure person. You will have a fear from another individual. You have fear from other objects of the world, whatever. So definitely, ultimately, it has a basis in the duality between me and Ishvara. And when definitely the fear being insecure person, the fear of therefore the fear of danger from another source will always be there, because the other will always be there. There is sense of otherness. Whenever there is sense of otherness, definitely you will have that insecurity, because that other person or other thing or other being, whatever, may not be the person. Maybe there is some other living being, like a tiger or any other thing. So maybe even a mosquito, maybe even a virus. It's a very source of fear right in this situation. And therefore, behind that the sense of otherness is there. That virus is different from me. It's very well rooted in our head. Difference between individuals is there, and therefore I feel insecure because there is a danger. And so fear always comes from this duality. Any fear means the duality is there, because you recognize the source of fear as something other than yourself. But why Swamiji that sense of otherness comes? Because you consider you measure yourself in a certain way. In your eye, you are just a human body. So you have carved out from this entire world yourself, that you are this much. And therefore then other than this body, everything is different from you. And that is how the duality arises. And therefore there is a sense of otherness in whatever is there in the world. It may be another living being, or it may be even inert thing. Sometimes inert thing also can become becomes a source of fear. So you can even be afraid of, it happens so that if you create such a division, sometimes you can be even afraid of yourself also. If you have created a split in yourself, the psychologists, they describe to a great length all this thing. So there is an ideal I and there is a actual I. So if you have created split, difference or duality between yourself, like ideal I and this actual I, and then actual I is always frightening, because ideal I means actual I is not able to reach to the ideal I, and therefore there is always a reason that why you are afraid of. That is, say actual I, in your I, you are always a wanting being. So like suppose that we are all a spiritual people walking on the path of our, moksha, etc. And when we talk about all these values, when we talk about even this description, etc. are going on, you will find yourself a wanting being. They say prajahati yada kaman sarvan parthapanogatan, etc. and all that. He gives up all desire, whatever arises in the mind, etc. And then you equate yourself and you find you are wanting in that aspect. So that is actual I. And what is ideal I? Like wise person. Wise person is an ideal I in your mind, that I also want to be a wise person. That's the ideal I. And actual I means whatever I have observed in me. And so there is a split in between. And you are always frightened with this actual I. Really. Because whenever you see yourself in your I, that you fall short of it, to the ideal I. And therefore, you yourself become a source of fear to yourself when you split like this. So whenever there is a split, whenever there is a duality, whenever there is such a difference, there is going to be a fear. And that is how we sometimes are fearful from the other people who are insane, thinking that I am a sane person. But sometimes you are fearful from yourself, thinking that there is insaneness in me, and wise person is the one who is a sane person, and therefore you will be frightened of yourself being insane. Similarly, you may find that you are afraid of a person who is sad. Definitely a sadness. So if you see yourself as a sad person, you want to run away from that. So that is a frightening. So bhayam always arises where there is a duality. Duality arises because of that, seeing the difference. And definitely, ultimately the source is, this bhayam arises when you see the duality. And duality is you see when you see the difference, because you see yourself as a body and then you find a wanting being and you have a desire, etc. And so if person has no desire, he is free from the hold of the desires, vita ragaha, then definitely in him the fear also won't be there. So this is how it has been seen, and that's how any Upanishad, when describes a wise person, they always say the wise person is one who is free from the fear. Abhayam pratishtham vindate. And wherever there is a duality, there is another statement also, where there is a duality, there is always going to be a fear. And so dvaitathi bhayam bhavati. Wherever there is a dvaitam, wherever there is a duality, etc., duality is not there, but in your head it is there because of the ignorance. It's a notion only, but anyway, we'll discuss that. It is going to come. So basically, because of that dvaitam, notion of otherness, definitely this thing the fear also will arise. So there can be no fear if you are able to see a one thing in every name and form, which is a reality. So the second thing is necessary, of course, to have for a fear to occur. So the one who has no duality, one who is clear that I is the one which is non-dual, and which is pervading all the names and forms. Names and forms are mithya. For him, there are no raga dveshas, there are no desires, and he is also free from bhayam. So vita, raga, bhayam. Now then, last thing is krodha. Vita, raga, bhaya, krodha. Anger also goes away from such a person. So a wise person is free from anger. This is very simple. So actually, if the person is free from raga dvesha, definitely free from anger also. A person who is free from raga dvesha is free from fear also. So this is how we have to see. Not that once bhayam goes, then anger goes. No. We should not connect it that way. Both are connected to raga dveshas ultimately. What? Bhayam and krodha, fear and anger, both are connected to this raga dveshas. Connected to desire, you can say. So a wise person is free from anger, and anger is nothing but as another form of a raga. Desire itself transforms into anger. Initially this desire is in a very, very benign form, and then it gets transformed into another form, very ugly form, that's called anger. Because whatever is obstructing my desire becomes the object of my anger. That's a simple rule that everyone knows also. And Bhagavan is going to discuss with a length, in this section itself. Dhyayato vishayan pumsaha sangat dhyayato vishayan pumsaha sangasteshu pajayate sangat sanjayate kamaha kamat krodho vijayate sangat sanjayate kamaha. So kamaha arises, desire arises, and from there krodha also arises. So desire leads to anger, means when it is obstructed. So whatever is obstructing my desire becomes the object of my anger also. And that's how in society we see this, many murders etc. take place because the object of a person's love becomes the object of his or her anger. A man does not kill basically, a loving woman, but he kills only the obstinate, unwilling woman, and then he will cry for the loving one. So then he cries because he remembers that she was loving also. So this is what is happening. So when a person becomes an obstruction to your desire, then the same person becomes an object of anger. And lastly, a little bit portion, the word, I have told you the word fear, bhayam, was put between the words raga and krodha because of this special significance, which is dealt very well in the Shastra. As I told you, both are connected to raga. Bhayam and krodha both are connected to raga. So only way to be free from fear is by swallowing the duality. And you cannot swallow duality unless, there is no duality. Right? If duality is real, you cannot swallow. You cannot make it mithya. And therefore, because there is no duality, it can be swallowed. And we swallow or we make it mithya. We destroy the duality through knowledge. There is no other way to destroy because it is not there in reality. It has no physical reality. Just because you are seeing me, I am seeing you, therefore there are two people or there are two entities, really is not correct. So the duality between individual and individual, that sense of a duality that he is different or he or she is different from me, that is just born of ignorance. And it goes, this duality goes through knowledge only. It's the only way to get rid of fear, to resolve the duality, which is born of ignorance, because in reality it is really not there. So wherever there is a duality, there is a fear, even the fear of immortality. Suppose, let's say that I am not fearful from other person, but then I have fear of mortality, of course. Fear of being put down, fear of being small, fear of not making it, etc., etc. So many ways, so many sources through which we get a fear. But behind all that, there is a duality. Fear can only arise when either you split yourself into two, and then ideal I and actual I, you find a difference, and then you are afraid of yourself through that, you are afraid of actual I, or out in outside world you are having a fear, because there also there is a sense of otherness. So wherever you create a duality, you will have a fear. And fear can exist only as long as there is seeker-sought relationship. And very relationship implies duality. The very desire itself, very seeking itself implies a duality between the seeker and the sought. Otherwise, how will I have a desire of myself? No one says that. Definitely you desire something, or you have a desire of something other than yourself. So in this final analysis, well, ultimately duality between oneself and the Lord has to resolve. So anyway, duality, when it is resolved at all the level simultaneously. Of course, we talk through Mahavakya Jiveshwara Aikyam, oneness between Jiva and Ishvara. But Ishvara is the whole creation. Ishvara is this body. Ishvara is this mind. Ishvara is these senses. So where actually this ego or individual stand? We have seen that already. That ego does not stand other than in ignorance. There is no ego or there is no individual at all. There is no Jiva at all. Jiva cannot be proven. We cannot be proven. Even though it is a matter of an experience, you cannot prove Jiva. No way. But then if it is a matter of an experience that I am individual, then it should be there. No, need not be. Just that, you experience a sunrise, it does not mean that sunrise should be there. There is no way. That is not the way to say that. And I experience this, the sky which is blue. I am experiencing blue sky. I am experiencing blue ocean, and therefore they are blue. Need not be. That is what the mithya is. You make experience. And therefore, basically a difference between individual or individual and the creation will resolve. Automatically it will resolve when through Mahavakya you will understand that Jiveshwaraikyam. Because Ishvara is the one who is manifest in the form of the whole creation. And that Ishvara basically, is the nature of me also, as a Brahman. And therefore, when you resolve this duality through the Mahavakya analysis, automatically the duality between Jiva and Jagat, duality between Jiva and Jiva, etc., individual and individual, resolve. And then there is no source of fear. There is no source of fear. World is a source of fear, or individual is a source of fear. Maybe Ishvara also is a source of fear if you have that. If people are many people who believe in Ishvara, I think in Taittiriya it has been discussed this. And then the biggest source of fear is Ishvara. Really. If you consider that Ishvara is different from you, then definitely Ishvara also is a source of fear. Well, today morning I could not do puja properly, and then he may give a danda, etc. He may give some punishment, etc. So always people feel that way. And so Ishvara also be a source of fear. World also can be a source of fear, or an individual can be a source of fear. And therefore it knocks out. Well, this Mahavakya knocks out. Well, Jiveshwara Aikyam, oneness between Jiva and Ishvara, means oneness means what? Jiva is non-separate from Ishvara. Oneness means what? There are no addition. We have talked in morning. There is no addition. Oneness means let us add this together. Jiva and Ishvara. Let's add together and make one. No, it's not. Oneness means one of them is mithya. That's what it means. So, one is born of ignorance and one is reality. That's what it means. And therefore, basically, Jiva is mithya. So, Jivatvam is mithya. We talked in morning as a Pramatrut. Anyway, same thing. So, basically, Jivatvam is mithya. There is Ishvara alone, or Brahman alone. That's how they say, Sarvam Khaluidam Brahman. So, then where does Jiva has gone? Because it is born of ignorance, therefore ignorance goes, that also goes. The Karyam goes. So what remains ultimately is Ishvara Srishti. For a wise person also, whereas names and forms all exist in a mithya way, like a sunrise, etc. exist. Even after knowing there is no sunrise, no sunset, sunrise and sunset will continue so long as my life is there. And therefore, same way all names and forms will be there. They keep on appearing, no problem. So what? It's a Ishvara Srishti. Jiva Srushti has gone. That's all purely born of ignorance, all imagination, all superimposition, all assumptions, you can say. So it has gone along with the ignorance because the cause has gone. But somehow then he still says, I am an individual and I am a human being and I have to, being a head of this institute, I have to do this. And so he still he says, he tells himself as an individual. Well, let him tell he is an individual, but I have told you already, it has become a badita. That's what mithya is. It doesn't go away anywhere. But you will not have a reality. Earlier it was a reality that I am a pramata, etc., etc., or I am a jiva, etc. Now that has gone. That's all. What remains is only Ishvara Srushti, and that he cannot negate. So the jiva arises out of ignorance. So ignorance goes means the jivatvam goes, jiva Srushti goes. But this is Ishvara Srushti. Well, and therefore it will remain. So any small division, whatsoever, is enough to cause the fear. So it has to go at all the levels, and as I told you, Mahavakya does the job to remove the duality completely. And that is how the person, the wise person, who has done a thorough analysis of this Mahavakya in Shravana Mananam, and of course, through Nididhyasanam, he has resolved in Sthitadihi, that's how they say. Sthitadihi means he stays in this knowledge, does not sway, it does not swing. So definitely then he will not have any fear. Vita, Raga, Bhaya, Krodha, desire, Raga, Dveshas are also there, but they are all non-binding. And then there is no need. If binding Raga is there, then if somebody becomes an obstruction, then there will be a Krodha. Because my whole happiness is determined by that fulfillment of that particular Raga. And if it is not fulfilled, somebody becomes an obstruction, there will be a Krodha also. But he is free from that. And he doesn't have even Bhayam also. And so, a Muni, Bhagavan says here, Sthitadihi Munihi Uchyate. Muni means a thinking person, a person of inquiry. Mananat Munihi. Mandhatu is there. Mandhatu means to think. So, Munihi means a thinking person, a person of inquiry of a Mahavakya, etc. And through that knowledge of Mahavakya, etc., Dihi, of this, the knowledge of this, the thinking person or a Muni, Sthita means it stays, it does not swing. So Muni does not think, duality. One day and next day he says, okay, no, there is non-duality. I am non-dual. One day. And next day I am dual. Means I am different, you are different. Then third day again, I am non-dual. There is no difference between me and Jagat, me and Ishvara, me and another individual. And then again says, I am one, I am Jiva, the other one is another Jiva, etc. Sita means stays in the knowledge of a non-duality. And so this is how it has been narrated here. And now the another verse which follows we'll see tomorrow. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.
Hari Om.
Hari Om.